guys, so I thought I would do a little weekend reading vlog. I am about to start reading probably my most anticipated book of the year. I can't really think of another book that I have been more excited for. So the book that I will for sure be reading is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. This is a dark fantasy, kind of like Salem, puritanical vibes about this like dark forest where witches were murdered, and there's a lot of like evil spirits and magic surrounding that forest, and a girl who stumbles into the forest, and these spirits gift her the journal of her dead mother, and it kind of unlocks like all these secrets. I've been so excited for this book, not only because one, the aesthetic of the book looks like my favorite thing in the world, but it just really reminds me of some of my favorite movies and TV shows, and I love this type of like earthy, dark witch vibe. I'm very excited for it. So that's 100% what I will be reading this weekend. I don't know what else I'm gonna read, but before I start reading, I did want to do just a little haul. I have 4 books here that I recently purchased. So the first one is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This is a dark historical romance with pirates, which sounds so good. I've really been wanting more pirate romances that give me like Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, and this sounds great. I think she has a love triangle with a pirate captain and a pirate hunter. I could be wrong, but that sounds great. Then the next one that I got is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. It is a basketball romance. From what I've heard, it's very emotional. I think it deals with like very emotional, heavy topics. So I'm a little bit nervous to read it, but I've really been wanting to read a Kennedy Ryan book. I've only read a novella by her and I really enjoyed it. So I want to read like one of her full novels. The next one I got is That Kind of Guy by Talia Hibbert. This is the 3rd book in the Ravenswood series, which is a series that I really like. And this is an age gap romance with an older woman and a younger man. And I believe that they have some sort of like fake dating deal because she has to go to all these events that her ex and his new wife are at, and she doesn't want to go alone, so she asks this guy to pretend to be her date at these events. I'm excited. I've really been loving this series, so cannot wait to get to this one. And then the last book I got, I actually won in a Goodreads giveaway, and that is Liar by Fiona Cole. This is a forbidden romance between a woman and her uncle's best friend, and they had like a random night together in a club. They didn't know who each other were, and they hooked up, and then 2 years later she sees him again at a family dinner, and it's very shocking. Ooh, she signed it to me. That's cool. I didn't even realize that. But yeah, I think this is a whole series with different like taboo books, so I'm excited for this. So now I'm gonna start reading for a bit. I don't have a physical copy of this book, but I ordered a copy, so it should be coming soon. But I did have an e-arc, and then I'm so extra, I also bought the audiobook. I don't know why I have this like obsessive need to have every format of a book. I just like to have the physical book, the ebook, and the audiobook. I don't know why. I'm crazy, okay? I found this like forest ritual ambient room that is really setting the mood for this book. Now I'm gonna start. I'm so excited to start this. Oh my god, it starts with a chapter called The Beast. I'm already obsessed. To chapter 6, and oh my god, I am loving this so much. So basically this takes place in almost this cult-like society or town that is being run by a prophet, and most of the women in the town end up marrying the prophet. So there's this whole cult-like society built around him, and the main character is biracial. Her mother was supposed to marry the prophet, but she ended up having an affair with an outsider, and she ended up getting pregnant. And when the prophet found out about that, he killed the guy in front of her mother, and she ended up fleeing into the dark woods, and 8 months later came out fully pregnant about to give birth. And so she ends up giving birth in the first chapter and dies. But right before she dies, she says that the baby is a curse and that the beast in the forest told her that. I mentioned how just like the synopsis and the cover really reminded me of one of my favorite movies, which is The Witch. It's a horror movie that's about like these pilgrims who move out near the woods and there's witches in the woods. It definitely is giving me that vibe. It also, I didn't even like foresee this, but it is also really reminding me of Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton, which is one of my all-time favorite books because both of these books are set in this town that is like isolated and very controlled because no one can leave this town. No one knows what's out of the town. And that's how Strange Grace was. Like, it was just this one town that is surrounding this very ominous, dark, evil forest that sort of has a life of its own. And I'm just loving it so much. The whole mythology of what is going on in the dark forest and these witches that were murdered there. The legend was that the dark wood had been created by the Dark Mother, who was the goddess of hell. And basically there was the Dark Mother and then the Good Father. And the Dark Mother also birthed like all of these demons and monsters and beasts that lurked in the forest. And it was from that forest and those creatures that the first witches were born, which one of them was named Lilith. And then there was also two witches who were called the Lovers, and they're basically canon sapphic witches. I already loved them. There was only a couple lines about them and I already was like, hello, party of one, I stand. So the four original witches were accepted into the Bethel town. They were accepted in, given a life there. They got married to people, they had children. But since they were the Dark Mother's like disciples, basically, their main purpose in life was to destroy the Good Father and to plant evil and darkness among everybody else. And so the very first prophet of this town rallied a bunch of people to round up the witches and kill them in the forest. But since their souls were so powerful, their like spirits lingered in the forest, and that's why it's such a dangerous place. And Emmanuel has always felt this calling to the dark wood, which is another thing that sort of tied it to Strange Grace for me, because the main character in that book also felt a calling to the evil forest. She said that it feels like the Darkwood is calling her home. So yeah, I'm just loving this. The whole Darkwood vibe with the witches and the Dark Mother and all this like folklore behind it is so good. I already feel like this is gonna be a 5-star book. I can't see it not being a 5-star, and I'm obsessed with it. I kind of want to stalk the author on social media and see if she's posted like aesthetic pictures and stuff, or like inspiration that she had for it, because I'm just obsessed with it. I also wanted to talk about the biracial rep in here because it is so, I don't even know the word for it. It's just great because, like I said, the main character, Emmanuel, her mother was white and her father was black. Both of her parents died before she was born, so she never knew either of them. And she doesn't know her father's like side of the family. He was an outsider, so the people that live like outside of the village, she like walks near the outsider like area where they all live, and she talks about how strange that is because some of these people could be her family. They could be her father's family and she has no idea. And she also feels like she has no connection to them. They look at her like she's an outsider as well. And she also doesn't feel like she fits in with the regular townspeople. Like, she just feels out of place. And I also thought it was very interesting the way that the outsiders were described. So it says that they were exiles and they were the less favored children of the father. And a few more radical members of the flock suggested their very appearance was a punishment, claimed that the rich ebony of their skin was an outward sign of their inner allegiance to the Dark Mother who bore their likeness. They weren't allowed to interact like normally in society, but the prophet wants to keep them close as to like make them assimilate. And it says that they might continue the process of their sanctification through service to the church. So this book really deals a lot with religion and religious conversion, and I'm really enjoying it. I think I've mentioned this before, how I really like fantasy books that have a religious aspect. I don't know why, because I'm not a religious person, but I find the ideas and concepts to be very interesting. I am 15% into this and still loving it, but I think I found one of my favorite quotes ever. So I won't give the context for this quote, but it says, "I have seen the evils of this world and I have loved them." That literally gave me chills. So I think one of the reasons why I love any type of story that is set around a forest or has a forest in it, I'm just really drawn to them. And I think it's because when I was a kid, there was this forest behind my elementary school. There was like a chain link fence separating the forest from the school property, because obviously like they didn't want little kids going over there. But there was this one section of the chain that was broken, and if you crawled, you could fit through it. So every day at recess, me and my best friend would crawl through the hole and go just spend recess exploring the forest. And I think we would like pretend that it was the Forbidden Forest from Harry Potter, and we would pretend we were witches. It was like the best time. And thinking about it now, I'm like, wow, that was so dangerous, because we were like 7 or 8, basically like escaping school and running around completely unsupervised in a forest. But I had so much fun and like so many adventures, and ever since then I've always been drawn to forests and any type of story that has one in it. And so I really like how the main character has this really big calling to the Darkwood, because I sort of get it, like I feel the same, and I'm just really enjoying this. I had to be vindicated, because I've mentioned a couple times already how this is really reminding me of the movie The Witch, and that's probably in my top 3 favorite horror movies of all time. It's such a good movie. There's a couple things that have happened, or a couple like characters or stuff that I'm like, there's absolutely no way that Alexis Henderson has not at least seen this movie. She has to have seen it. There's no way that she hasn't. So I scoured Google looking for interviews that she's done, seeing if she's mentioned the movie at least once. And I found a podcast that she did where she talked about how she loves the movie and is obsessed with it, and something that I definitely thought was like a nod to the movie, she confirmed that it was. So I just feel very vindicated because I freaking knew it, and that makes me even more excited. Okay, so it has been a couple days now since I finished The Year of the Witching, and I am just blown away by this book. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I ended up giving it 5 stars like I predicted I would. It was just everything that I wanted, and I loved so much that the witches and the magic in this book were not downplayed. They were straight out of a nightmare. Like, these witches were so creepy, and I really liked the main character and how she was battling between basically like these two sides of herself, this darker side that was attracted to the witches and the Darkwood and the magic, and then this more benevolent side who saw the good in people and wanted to protect people. Basically, the plot of this, what happens is that she accidentally unleashes a curse onto this town in the form of 4 plagues that come through and just cause destruction. Part of her is like, you know what, this town and the people in this town deserve it. The men, the apostles, the prophet, the people who are oppressing the women in the town, she's like, they deserve it. They deserve these plagues. They deserve to die. But then the other side of her is like, there's innocent people in this town who don't deserve that. Maybe there's people who have been bystanders to abuse and oppression. Maybe they've been bystanders, they've gone along with it, but it's all a part of this whole system that the prophet has set up, where it's like the women in this town, they either, you know, go with it and turn on each other, or they end up being punished. So I really liked that. There was a little bit of a romance in here, which I personally enjoyed. It wasn't like the focal point of the story, but it was a nice aspect of it. And yeah, I just loved this. It was exactly my kind of book. I definitely think if you liked Strange Grace by Tessa Gratton, you will also like this book. Like I mentioned, they have a lot of similarities, and I cannot wait to read anything else by this author. I don't know. I mean, the ending of this book, it had a complete ending. So I don't know if this is a standalone or if there's maybe going to be more books in this town or in this world. I would gladly welcome them. Which reminds me, oh my god, the last 30 pages of this book were insane. Like, I wish I had been recording my like live reaction while reading it, because oh my god, it was just like one crazy thing after another. And I was like, holy shit. But yeah, that is going to be the end of this vlog. I really loved this book, and I'm glad that I was vlogging it. And I'm really glad that it didn't disappoint, because this was my most anticipated book of the year, and it was just so good. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!